Welcome back, and today I want to be talking about how to choose the right commander to build for you. And to do this, we have to identify a couple different factors. The first factor we have to understand is what your experience level is with the game. If you're brand new, well then you don't want something super complicated that you don't know how to use, and you also don't want something that's super expensive because you're still trying to figure out if you like the game. Another problem with being brand new is that you're not going to have very many cards that you just have extra, right? Like, for example, I have boxes of common cards that I can use if I need them, and that also helps me fill out different slots or have cards that I need already. This also means even if you do like the game, that you're not going to be entirely sure on what strategy you're going to want to do, which is okay. You can figure that out as you go, but you don't want to commit a large amount of money to something that you don't even know that you're going to enjoy entirely. My honest advice for someone starting at this point would be to watch gameplay videos with the pre-con decks and find one that you really like the strategy of and get that, because it's going to help you the most to understand the game and see what you really like. However, I do understand that some people don't want to go that route because they like getting their hands dirty, and I was one of those people myself. I got a pre-con deck and I didn't enjoy it because I didn't watch anything on it, and I ended up building my own deck for the first time. And I was the first one out of all my friends to do that. And so if you're at the level that you don't exactly know what kind of strategy you want to do, well, I would suggest watching some gameplay online, because this will give you an idea of what strategies you enjoy watching and thus probably like playing as well. This is one of the best ways to gain knowledge on certain types of decks, whether it is how to build them or play them. It doesn't really matter. The reason for that is that that person is already invested in that strategy. They know that they like that deck and are at least playing with it in a way that would be showing you how it works. Another fun way to figure out a way to build your commander is to look at the most current sets and just look through all their legendary creatures, because that'll most likely give you at least one legendary creature that you go, you know what, that looks like a super fun way to play a deck, and that's what I want to do. One thing to consider also is, well, what kind of budget are you looking at? Because if you're looking at a cheaper budget for commander, which is usually somewhere underneath $75, somewhere in that range, you're going to want to go with a cheaper strategy typically. Now you can build like cool decks for more money, it's just a lot harder to do, and you're gonna have to look a lot harder and do a lot more research. But if you're just looking for a basic build under $75, it's pretty easy to do and pretty easy to pilot. Probably should stick with something like Voltron maybe, or sometimes Landfall, depending on what cycle it's on. Things like that are pretty simple and easy to build. Another thing to keep in mind when you're trying to build a deck on a budget is that you have to look at the mana base. And, well, strictly speaking, a mana base for a 1 or 2 color deck is just going to be straight up cheaper than a 3, 4, or 5 color deck. So some of those higher color commanders sometimes just aren't good for a person building on a budget. And not only on a budget, if you're a newer player and you haven't built a deck before, it's going to be a lot harder to build a mana base like that. So I would either recommend, if you really want to build a deck like that, the professor has videos breaking down each color mana base and how to build them. And that's a really good resource. That's how I built my first deck and learned how to build mana bases for commander decks. So check those out. Another thing that you could use to pick commanders, or at least try to look through commanders and make it easier for you, because there's thousands of commanders out there that could all be good potential decks for you, and it's a lot of creatures to go through one by one. However, if you know what kind of deck you like playing by just the color wheel, then you can narrow your commanders down a whole lot. Personally, my favorite color is green because I like playing with big splashy plays, and that's exactly what green does. And the reason for that is I just feel like I have more of an impact. And my second color is probably white, because I like to play control sometimes, but I don't like to play control in the traditional way. I don't like to play counter spells and all those different things, because I feel like it's a feel bad on the other player's perspective, whereas white typically allows things to hit the battlefield first and then you deal with them. So at least they get the joy of playing that creature. They might get an activation off, but you can usually deal with it in a different way. Not only that, but it also typically, like for example, if you're gonna, enchant a creature and it says it can't attack or block, yeah, it takes it out of the game for that point, but it also means that they can get it back if they built their deck correctly, and that's something that I really like giving them the option for. That being said, I'll just quickly go over some of the basic stuff that the color wheel provides to give you an idea of what kind of decks you want to build. Green is going to be a big creature-based strategy. You're usually going to be playing lots of things to give you mana, lots of things that'll get you to big splashy plays really early. Red is essentially just try to get out the gate as fast as you can and do as much damage as possible. It's hasty, it's fast, and realistically, you're just going as fast as you can, no matter how much it sets you back. Blue is a lot more control based. You want to be able to counter things. You want to have a little more control over what's happening on the battlefield. You want to be able to bounce things back to people's hands so that they're not on the battlefield anymore. You want to be able to draw a bunch of cards and kind of like slow the game down a little bit. Black is typically going to be based around death in a way. Typically, whether it's aristocrat strategies where you're killing your own creatures for your benefit, or you're going to bring creatures back from the graveyard or something like that, but it's typically about graveyard / death synergy. And last and probably least is white. White is going to be another grindy type deck style. It's going to be usually the best strategy in white is tokens, but you're typically trying to go wide with white. You're not going to be building up a huge creature. You're not going to be building up like a massive like grindy type game. You're usually going to be trying to build a wide board. It is going to be based on strength of numbers more. So that's kind of the idea of what each color is good at and kind of what it does. So you got to figure out which one you like the best and pick that. So in summary, the best way to find out what kinds of decks you want to play if you have no idea is to watch online content and see how different types of decks play. Use the color wheel to your advantage. Understanding what each color does and how it works is going to help you out to pick a commander. The less colors in your mana base, the better it is for ease of build and typically a budget as well, because you don't need as many dual color lands. And at that point, really all you have to do is figure out which one fits that for you and start building. At that stage, there's plenty of great resources for you. I have a couple deck techs. I know that EDHREC is what I use a lot of. There's the Commander's Quarters. Sometimes the Command Zone can help you with pre-con upgrades or something like that. But there's a ton of good resources out there online to help you build a deck. That being said, I hope that this video helped you figure out what kind of commander you want to build, and if you found it helpful, consider leaving a like. If you want more Magic content like this, or some of the deck techs that I do, subscribe. That's going to be all. Until we meet again, whether it's on this plane or another, have a wonderful day.